Welcome, everyone. We are back in the podcast studio again for another really fun episode episode. See, it's getting late in the day. Episode with Chloe Holiday. Thank you, Chloe, for coming back again. I am so grateful for your literary friendship and the fact that you're way over in Washington State and we can reach out and talk and share story. And I think technology is an amazing thing.
It is. It is. And especially during the pandemic, it's been a lifesaver, I think, for a lot of us.
Yes, absolutely it has. And I'm so glad that we've been able to kind of find a way to bridge that gap.
Right. Absolutely.
So we're going to hear another story today from Chloe. Let me tell you just a little bit about Chloe before we get into the story. Chloe Holiday is a physician who is evolving as a novelist. I think she's already gotten there, but who am I? She writes the things that she loves to read, steamy, fun stories about ordinary people in extraordinary circumstances, smart women and men who aren't jerks. She likes to read about friendships, either close women or a good bromance. She wants all the feels, the thrill of a smoldering gaze or the barest brush of fingertips, the shocked gasp of the underhanded villain, the angst of heartbreak, the joy of reunion, and of course, the happily ever after. Who doesn't love a good ending?
That's right.
We want to feel good about that cup of tea we just spent, right?
That's right. And life does not give as many happy endings as we should get, by golly. So
yeah, by golly.
You need them in the book.
So today, Chloe is going to read New Heights for us. This is another trip back to Greece, right?
That's right. That's right. This one takes place in Crete predominantly.
Awesome. Is there more food in this one?
Some, absolutely. Not quite as much, maybe, but some.
Okay. Wild child Sarah Ann moves to Greece to help her best friend with her fledgling advertising agency. Though a Navy base full of hot men like a fantastic bonus, just because she doesn't believe in relationships doesn't mean she can't have fun. Then a chance encounter in a taverna, that's a tavern, right?
For those taverna, yeah.
For those of us who don't speak Greek, with a sexy Navy man leaves her angered but intrigued when he walks away. Okay, I can't wait. I can't wait. That's one of the biggest problems that I have in life is I have zero patience, especially when it comes to people reading out loud for me. So well, I think we should just give you the microphone and let you read some more.
All right. That sounds great. Awesome. That sounds great. We start with chapter 1 with the heroine's POV. Chapter 1, A New Start. Sarah Ann closed the door of her Ford Escape in the gloom of the parking garage and balanced the cardboard box from the office on her hip. Not much to show for a year of work. The most important thing in it was a slice of cake. She stepped into the elevator. It lurched down, and she carefully held the box level. Though the parking structure was cooler than the D.C. streets below, the smell of oil and diesel hung in the stale air, nauseating. Or was it the dread of seeing Blaine tonight? The elevator dinged. Sarah Ann walked into the fading afternoon sun and called to the lady sitting on the sidewalk in a pile of blankets. "Hi, Eleanor." Sarah Ann reached down to rub the ears of the little schnauzer who sat beside her. "Hi, Gustav." She slipped some money into the coffee can he guarded, set her box down, and smiled at his gray-haired mistress. "I brought you some cake from my last day at Capital Advertising." She lifted out a piece of yellow sheet cake decorated with white frosting and the blue G and O from Good Luck, Sarah Ann, and handed it to Eleanor. "They couldn't even spring for chocolate? No wonder you left." Eleanor closed gnarled fingers around the rim of the plastic plate. "Thanks." "Do you want any of this?" Sarah Ann asked, gesturing to the box. "There's a coffee mug and a magic 8-ball, but the rest is just pens and stuff." All I want is the picture of me and Dad. She pulled out the framed photo. Gustav sniffed the contents thoroughly. He likes it. I'll take it, said Eleanor around a mouthful of cake. Okay, see you later. Sarah Ann gripped the photo, straightened, and hiked the 3 blocks to her apartment with a lump in her throat. Gustav and Eleanor might miss her more than her co-workers. She shook her head to dislodge the memory of the subtle and not so subtle comments. I can't believe you're serious. Figures you'd do something like this. You really are crazy. Sarah Ann kicked her heels off at the door of her place and set the photo on her bedside table. Her dad looked just the same, though it had been taken on a fishing trip for her 8th birthday. This one would go in her carry-on. In the tiny kitchen, she poured a glass of iced tea and sorted through the mail. The clock slowly advanced. Sarah Ann flipped through the closet in her near-empty apartment and wrinkled her nose. Pretty slim pickings these days. She shoved a taped-up box to the side and pulled out a pair of strappy heels from the jumble in the back. Dangerous shoes were always a good choice. She slid hangers aside. The ruched metallic bronze sheath? Or the clingy red tank with a draped front? Red. Warning colors. She tossed it on the bed along with the shoes and sighed. Her phone rang, Nicole's name flashing on the screen. Sarah Ann flopped down onto the bed with a grin. Hey, Nick, how's life on Olympus? Nicole's voice sounded so close she could have been across town instead of the ocean. Ha ha, busy. It's been a learning curve, the way things work in Greece, but so much fun to get the Dracos campaign up. Sarah Ann snickered. That's not all you're getting up, I bet. How's Konstantinos the Hot? Oh my God, why do I even talk to you? Sarah Ann laughed, though her eyes stung at hearing her friend's familiar retort. You talk to me because I tell it like it is, and you need that in your life. If you say so. Nicole's voice warmed. Guess what? Konstantinos is taking me to see the ruins of ancient Troy. Sarah Ann smiled, imagining Nicole's happiness. Sounds like a lot of old rocks. She rolled onto her back, feet up to inspect her pedicure. Still perfect. Sarah Ann let her legs drop, and her stuffed pig fell over sideways. She'd box up Mr. P at the very last moment. But I'm sure it'll be great. I can't wait. Nicole radiated from Nicole's voice. And I can't wait to see you again. What are you up to? About packed up? Yep, pretty much. Going out with Blaine tonight, that guy from the bakery. Sarah Ann turned onto her stomach, ankles crossed in the air. Again? That's got to be a record, right? 4 weeks? 5? It was a record. She'd violated her own rule. A twinge of anxiety surfaced at the thought. 4 weeks, 5 dates. Blaine's fun, not bad in bed. And he's been clear it's just hooking up. Not that it mattered anymore. What happened to leave fast, leave first? Is there something more to this one? No. Happily ever afters only happen in books. There's a reason they call it fiction. Uh-huh. When are you going to tell him? Her voice rose. Tonight. Sarah Ann flounced onto her side, suddenly irritable. Look, I've got to get ready. I'll talk to you later. Love you. Tossing her phone down, she sat up and pressed the heels of her palms against her forehead, then glared at Mr. P, whose bright, glassy eyes judged her despite his own tattered pink velour and threadbare, droopy ears. What are you looking at? She asked the stuffed pig, then hugged him tight. I shouldn't have agreed to go out tonight. She wasn't afraid of being alone, exactly, or what the future held. It was just strange, so much at once, quitting her job, packing up her place, her best friend gone. That was all it was. Best to keep moving, less time to think. Down you go, Sarah Ann told the pig and lobbed him onto the pillows. Mr. P bounced against the bedside table, bumping the photograph. He'd be bundled along with her other stuff for her dad to pick up on Tuesday. She snagged her phone and double-checked her calendar, now strangely empty, though one date loomed, a one-way flight. Sarah Ann turned on the radio for company and smoothed peppermint lotion onto her feet, then wandered over the fridge, unscrewed the cap of a half-empty bottle of Pinot Noir, and sniffed it. Good enough. She poured a glass and sipped, ignoring the faint tang of vinegar, and plunked down at her mirror to suit up for Friday night. Chapter 2. Goodbye. Lieutenant Junior Grade Carlos Monarch stood ramrod straight, officer's cap tucked beneath his arm, while his mother deviled him for one more photo, undeterred by the Little Rock Airport hubbub around them. It was past time to leave, the humidity and poverty of his hometown equally oppressive just 2 days into his visit, let alone 5. And there was always the chance of running into Sierra, having to pretend that it was all fine, her two-timing him with Mr. Hotshot Instagram lawyer while Carlos was gone. Like it was a mutual decision because of distance instead of an imbalance in spending power. Like it didn't hurt that he wasn't worth waiting for. It was nothing formal, no promises, but they talked about it, her getting her degree, then following, traveling the world with the security of his job and benefits. But Sierra had found a quicker route to security. Nothing else to do but make sure he climbed fast. He'd work hard to be the hotshot himself. His mother interrupted that train of thought. Come on, mijo, give your mom a smile now. Lord knows I'll need some happy pictures to tide me over for a whole year. Some that don't look like you're going off to the salt mines of the electric chair. She lowered her cell phone and put one hand on her hip. You know, if you're looking all gloomy, you'll just make me cry and cause an unholy scene. Her lip quivered, trying to hold back a smile, or maybe tears. Navy men don't grin like maniacs, Mom. We keep our chill. In an instant, she was glaring. She looked so fierce, drawing up to her full 5'2". It made him laugh. Not with me, you don't. Mothers have a special pass on all that. Her chin wobbled, and she marched up to tug at his already perfect uniform. Now his gig line was probably off kilter. And don't you talk back to me. She sighed and took a couple of photos with herself, then hailed 2 young women with airport badges. Will you please take a picture of me and my son? His mother squeezed close to him, barely up to his shoulder. Casual, but he wasn't fooled. She'd gotten her hair relaxed 2 days ago, and she wore lipstick today. These pictures would make the rounds at church and work and the whole neighborhood. Mom looked up at him, fiddling with his collar. How did my baby boy grow up to look so dashing? Look at those hazel eyes, just like your father, God rest him. Carlos knew better than to interrupt her when she was on a roll. She smiled for the women, thanked them, and kept up the barrage as she scrolled through the snapshots. They should put you on a poster. Who do I write to tell them to put my boy on a recruitment poster? I like that gold bar better than this silver one, though. That got a smile from him, and he stepped close and hugged her tight. Her chatter meant she was trying not to cry. This is 1 times silver is better than gold, Mom. It's a higher rank. I remember, mijo. Don't mean I have to like it. Seems backwards. She shook her head. How a landlocked Arkansas boy ended up joining the Navy boggles the mind. Guess I can lay that on your father, too. I've got to go now, Mom. I'll call you before I ship out. 1 week to outprocess at the base, and then he was gone. I'm proud of you. She smiled up at him, eyes bright. Better run along then. My, you do look handsome. She plucked at his collar one last time. You watch yourself now, or you'll be bringing me a grandbaby back from Crete. Not happening. Navy life was incompatible with anything long-term, at least until he moved way up in rank. She smiled at his answer. He stooped to grab his bag and shot her a grin. I might get in some practice, though. He dodged her swat and headed to the security line without looking back. Getting her riled had been the best move. Seeing her cry always bothered him, since it happened so rarely. Tough as hell, his mom, raising him alone, getting him through all that when his father died. My turn to take care of her now. Career on a fast track, chasing down the next promotion at $50,000 a year. Maybe the Navy War College. He could help pay off her house, make sure she had a good life. She needed that more than grandchildren. There'd be plenty of time for a family when his career was sorted. Once he was through security, he headed to the food court, reconnoitered all the offerings, and chose the place with the cutest workers to buy an overpriced sandwich. The girl at the register flirted, her white smile brilliant against brown skin a little darker than his own, and twirled one beaded braid around her finger. Crete? And Maryland before that? I've never been out of Arkansas. She shook her head in admiration, her hair beads clicking softly. You're really going places. Yes, I am, and thank God for that. He thanked her, too, then strode to eat his ham on wheat at a wobbly plastic table. Pathetic how grateful he was for her flirting. What the hell had happened to him? Carlos flew back to Norfolk and texted his mom he was going home so she wouldn't worry. He stared into his near-empty fridge. No sense buying things now that would spoil. He'd clean it tomorrow. He needed to get his entire deposit back on this place. Carlos grabbed one of the 2 remaining beers and cracked it open as he scrolled through his checklist again. POV shipment. Check. He'd arranged for a rental car until his privately owned vehicle showed. His bike should be halfway across the Atlantic, and he had spare Ducati parts ready to ship when they picked up his household goods in a few days. It'd be expensive if he missed anything. Contact sponsor. Check. His sponsor, another O2 like him, now 6 months into his deployment in Crete, had seemed okay in the email. I won't need babysitting anyway. Lieutenant Junior Grade Griffith had secured Carlos temporary billeting in a hotel, but he'd have to hustle like hell to find a good place on the economy once he arrived. Documents. International driver's license done and dusted, passport with another 3 years on it. Good to go with insurance, proof of bike handling skills, title for the Ducati. Household goods. Good riddance to the TV he'd watched chick flicks on with Sierra. The foreign electric current and Greek TV signals rendered most of his stuff unusable in Crete anyway. Instead of helping him chill, this time his review made Carlos feel like he forgot something major, but he pushed it down. Mainly busy work left, running around so every department and facility could sign off. Like I'd skip town owing money for library fines or traffic tickets. But the Navy would make sure he hadn't bailed on medical or dental needs or managed to skate out some other way. Carlos drank the rest of his beer and paced his pared-down apartment. There's no reason to be nervous. It's going to be awesome. A chance to punch his ticket. No relationship to slow him down. He could hop a flight or ferry from Crete to Athens and explore by Eurail. Smack dab in the middle of Europe, Suda Bay, Crete was about as far away from Arkansas and Sierra as he could get it. Just the way he wanted it. Chapter 3, Dinner with Blaine. Sarah Ann rinsed the empty wine bottle and set it in the sink. After brushing her teeth, she grabbed her purse, feeling better. Her buzzer sounded. Hey, beautiful, Blaine said. I'll be right down. She glanced at Mr. P and shrugged. Don't wait up. She headed out her door to the elevators. Tall, blonde, hard-muscled, Blaine leaned against the lobby desk and his eyes lit up. Damn, you look amazing. He took her hand and twirled her around, making her short hem float even higher. I'll be with the most beautiful woman in the room. His arm came around her, possessive. Ready to go? No. But that didn't matter. Her stomach flipped. He opened the door and walked her to his car. I thought we'd try that new sushi place. Huh. He remembered sushi was her favorite. Anxiety edged in at the thought of starting over in a new town. Sounds fine. She slid into the passenger seat and he closed her door, walked around, and got into the car. You okay? Blaine said. Yeah, I'm fine. Well, you look fine. Damn fine. He reached to take her hand. I've been looking forward to this all day. Me too, would have been the natural response. What's wrong with me? Instead, she said, how was work? That was good for the rest of the ride to the restaurant. He told her a funny story about a bread slicing machine malfunction. She watched him, tallying his faults, a little possessive, starting to make assumptions, sometimes arrogant. Time to get out anyway, although her countdown usually started way before now, as men accumulated enough strikes to make it easier. But Blaine was nice, fun. When they arrived, their server lit a diminutive crystal oil lamp, casting a glow on shiny black pebbles arranged in a low glass dish. Dread blunted her appetite, though a Japanese beer helped settle her stomach. She had nothing to worry about. They'd agreed at the beginning neither wanted a relationship. No reason for him to be hurt. The waiter set down a plate of gunkan maki, a flotilla of little seaweed ships topped with salmon roe. Delicious, but it stuck in her throat. You're quiet tonight. Blaine raised an eyebrow. You're usually so crazy and funny. Was there a reproach there? Crazy was one strike already, surely. Long day, she shrugged. Kind of stressful. Anything I can do? He grinned. I know a cure or two for stress. Did that count? The lunge straight to sex? Don't be a hypocrite. More time in the sheets would only distract, though. Speaking of stress relief, you said you were going to try rock climbing? Yeah, it's something a couple can do together. Women can be really good at it, they say. Maybe once I check it out, you can try it with me. A couple? I don't think so. Bile rose inside her. Good thing he'd never asked about her calluses. She forced a smile. I don't want to break a nail. She could do sexist as well as he could. His own smile gave way to a sober expression. That's one thing I like about you. You manage to be so hot, but you're not a girly girl who's afraid of things like that. No, I'm a much bigger coward. We're all afraid of something. She drank the last of her beer and wiped her lips. You're serious tonight, but I like this side of you. He tilted his head. He kept making it worse. Or she did. Both? God, I'm so screwed up. He signaled for the check. If you don't want to talk, let's go back to my place for some serious stress relief. Okay, that definitely counted. I don't know, Blaine, The waiter laid their bill down on a tray. She reached for her purse as Blaine said, I got it. He frowned as she pulled out her wallet. No, I got it. He paid the bill and walked her to his car. You have been quiet, though. Anything we should talk about? This was her cue, but dumping him after going to dinner would be pretty cold. She was going to throw up. This had been a mistake to go out with him again. Had she relented so she wouldn't have to think about what happened after tonight? I'm fine, she said, chickening out again. Blaine drove back to his place. She didn't argue. He unlocked the door and held it open for her. She stepped inside and dropped her purse onto the sofa, her eyes flicking over the apartment. Clean and Spartan. He wasn't a man who needed much rehab if the next woman was interested in his long-term potential. And he'd barely racked up any strikes at all the whole night. Nothing to seize on to make it early, although maybe he'd been keeping his own tally. Her guilt solidified into a solid lump in her throat. Might as well get it done. She opened her mouth to tell him, but his arms slid around her, making her skin tingle. Hey, beautiful. He kissed her. His breath tickled her ear, and he did that thing he did, where he kind of crashed against her, and she was hungry after all, clinging to him. All thought fled. Confrontation. Sarah Ann slipped out from beneath Blaine's arm when his breathing deepened and fumbled for her clothes. This was a bad idea. She shimmied into her dress, hooked fingers in the straps of one shoe, and reached under the bed for the other. Straightening, she tiptoed to the doorway. She'd text him tomorrow. It was late, and with his hours at the bakery, Blaine needed his sleep. I'll just get an Uber. Hey. Behind her, the bedclothes rustled. Shit. She froze, nearly to the doorframe. What are you doing? The screen of his phone lit his face. It's nearly 2 a.m. He sat on the side of the bed, rubbing his eyes. I guess we're done, but I thought you'd stay. I only stayed that one time, and I've got things I need to do. That's lame as hell. At 2 a.m? Blaine snapped on the light, and she flinched at the sudden brightness. Want me to drive you home? He grabbed his underwear. No, I'll take an Uber. He frowned. What's up with you? Did I do something wrong? The only thing he'd done wrong was tempt her to stay. No, she sighed. Crossing her arms, she leaned against the doorway. I'm moving, and I've still got packing to do. What? Moving? His eyebrows shot up. Moving where? When? I didn't know until a few weeks ago. Moving. He shook his head. Why didn't you tell me? He jerked his t-shirt on. I wasn't even sure it would matter. You said you weren't interested in a relationship. Well, no. He snatched his jeans from the floor. What are you saying? He pulled them on and advanced, scowling. She backed out of the room. I'm sorry. I meant to tell you earlier, as soon as I knew, but you specifically said it was just a hookup, just a casual thing, no strings attached. That's because girls get so needy. Blaine rubbed his face with his hand. Okay, let's just sit down and talk about it. He gestured to the couch, and she perched on the edge, nauseated. He sat on the other end, facing her. Blaine, I figured it would be over by now. I never thought, but I am leaving. He stared at her. Leaving me? Or leaving town? Maybe I can visit. It's for work or school or what? It's work. It's a really big deal. I have to do it. She twisted the clasp on her purse. I should have bailed 2 weeks ago. So that's it? You won't even tell me where you're moving? What the hell, Sarah Ann? Just stop it. She crossed her arms. Hypocrite. He was the one who'd gone to such lengths to make sure she knew he didn't want more, that he wouldn't actually care about her. Can you honestly say you wouldn't have slept with me if you knew? Would it have changed anything? He blinked, then closed his eyes and took a long breath. You're right, he said. I'd have hooked up with you for a single night or every night until you left. But it would have changed everything. I wouldn't have. He stared across the room. It would have been a different mindset. Like what? A different mindset than it's just a hookup thing that you kept saying? That's not fair, Blaine, after the fact. You never told me things had changed. How was I supposed to know? But she had known, by virtue of it continuing, damn it. Fine, whatever. He sighed loudly and rested his forearms on his knees. Tell me where you're going and when. Maybe I can visit some long weekends. No. I'm moving in 5 days. To Greece. Greece? He gave a short, sharp laugh. Then his eyes widened, staring at her. You're serious. There was nothing she could say. That's fucking unbelievable. He stood up, stomped into his bedroom, and slammed the door. Okay, then. Sarah Ann made it to the elevator before she started to hyperventilate. It's fine. He'll be fine. Better that he's angry instead of hurt. That's what came from breaking rules. Fingers shaking, she arranged a ride, then texted Nicole. It was going on 10 a.m. in Athens. Sarah Ann. Done. Nicole. How'd he take it? Sarah Ann typed fine, then deleted it. Not happy. But he'd move on, like her. Nicole, how are you doing? Sarah Ann closed her eyes, missing her friend, grateful for the lack of I told you so. Fine. More fish in the sea. Nicole, yeah, but stop bottom fishing. These guys you date, it's like you're holding back. Sarah Ann, Kay? Nicole, no long-term potential, just good time boy toys. She was right, but Sarah Ann texted, I like my toys, but the good times are over now. Nicole texted back, yeah? Know what a smart lady once told me? Find a hot European to take your mind off him. Sarah Ann laughed at having her words thrown back at her, and by Nicole, of all people. It helped, the reminder she'd soon join Nicole. The car pulled up. Touche, gotta go. She went home to her apartment, grabbed her dumbbells, and worked out until long after her muscles burned.
Very nice. Thank you so much.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure. It's fun to be here.
Okay, so you have to promise me that you're going to start writing more slowly so that I can catch up.
Well, the holidays will do that.
Yeah, I keep asking my author friends that very same request, and everybody gives me the very same answer. Yeah, sure, Diana, we'll do that. What was the hardest part about writing this book for you?
The hardest part for me was how to depict a heroine who struggles with mental illness in such a slow and relatable way that people identified with her rather than just saying, oh, here's one of these crazy people. Mm-hmm. And that was important to me. I have people I care about who have mental illness, and most of the mentally ill people in fiction are crazy bunny boilers or complete messes,
Right. Yeah,
disasters,
they're not like normal
people who have to be saved, and mental illness is a continuum from completely perfect, and I don't know that person, all the way to big time screwed up, and most of us are somewhere in between. And it was important for me to have somebody who had these struggles, who was the heroine, who could rise to the occasion and still be worthy of love, and be someone who could save herself. And that was just really important to me, but it was tricky to do, because if I think if you said to people, this is a story about a mentally ill chick, people would say, I'm out of here. I read for fun. Right. I don't want any part of it. No.
Absolutely.
But
there has to be realism in our fiction too.
Yeah,
right.
I think so. Yeah. And so it was hard, but I was really pleased with how people started to relate to her and to recognize that she was not evil or necessarily even broken, but that she'd been through some stuff, and that she had some struggles. And I did not purposely label her with any particular diagnosis, which was interesting. I did it on purpose because I didn't want people to just immediately say, oh, it's this.
Well, the preconceived notion of that is tough to forget once it's put out there. Right?
Exactly. And especially because of the way certain things are depicted in movies and fiction. Sure. But the other thing that was fascinating to me as a writer that I hadn't anticipated was that drew people in more. They were trying to figure out, okay, what is the deal with Sarah Ann? Is she just sensitive? Does she have depression? Does she have bipolar? What is the deal with her? And it didn't seem to distract from the story, but to pull them in a little more. But anyway, I was really
it's relatable. Yeah.
Right. And that was my goal. I love to write about underdogs. And I love a story with some suspense. And this is one of those with some action and suspense. But that was the tricky thing. Really, I'm a masochist. Every book I pick a new challenge. Gosh, can I pull this off? But I have to say, New Heights and Submerged Hopes are kind of some of my favorite because of that sort of aspect. The
Sure,
heroine.
because you got to do something that is kind of outside the box of normal
Right.
writing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And normal heroines.
Sure.
I like a tough heroine, but not the cartoon character one, who fights off people while kickboxing in high heels. That's not quite what
No, I get it. I get it. Yeah. I'm so glad you came back, and I look forward to your next reading. I think it's going to be super, super fun to have you
Fantastic.
back again.
Oh,
I'm gonna keep asking you back until we run out of story.
All right. Well, we'll have to see how long that takes. But yeah, it's been so fun to be here. I really appreciate it.
Sure. All right. You have a wonderful evening out in the great Northwest.
All
and
right.
we will
Thank you.
speak with you again soon.
All right. We'll see you next time.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.